Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new kind of format for competitive Geoguessr. We are trying out a new kind called Formula G, based on the Formula One auto racing format, I guess you'd call it, here in 2021. So we're here to preview this season as we did the Reddit League by taking a look at all the teams and who the competitors will be for each team, and also how this new format will work out. I'm joined, as always, by Calamity. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. So let's get right into this. So how this new formula works is there are two races almost every week. They're only a couple days long, as you can see. So there's the feature race, which is on a countrywide map of a host country. So we'll be on very specific, no world maps in this format at all. The top 10 drivers, there are 20 drivers total, so only the top 10 will get points with a bonus point of 5 points for the fastest perfect game. So not only do you have to get 25K in order to get those bonus points, but you have to be the fastest one to do it, and that's a big chunk of points. The races will start on either a Friday night, Saturday morning. The seeds will be released, and they'll have until Wednesday evening to complete them, which will give the organizers a few days to tally all the points and get ready for the next race. After that, there'll be a sprint race, which is going to be on a city map of the same country as the feature race. So to take an example of our first test event, the host country is Spain, and more specifically, Barcelona will be the city map for that. Drivers will be given a chance to complete a challenge in reverse time order. Might be the best way to say it. The best drivers from the feature race will have the least amount of time to complete the sprint race, with the players having the worst score in the feature race given the most amount of time. And points will be awarded in the same fashion as the sprint race.
Yeah, couple of small corrections on that. The points will be rewarded in the same way as the feature race, without the bonus points for fast 25K. And in the first week in Barcelona, since it's only a test event, there will be no sprint race. And for a small correction, the sort of what's it called? The amount of time you get in the sprint race is not based on the feature race of the same week, but on the feature race in the prior week, because obviously it wouldn't work otherwise.
Okay.
If you get both seats at the same time.
Okay, that's helped me clarify a few things from my own understanding there. Yeah, it's a new format, so we're all still trying to get used to it and working out all the details, reading through the instructions. So you don't have to. But anyways, here's how the points will be awarded to those top 10 places. First place getting 25 points, second 20 points, third 15, and so on, with 10th place only getting a single point. So quite a quick drop off there. So definitely want to get up as high as possible, of course, as always.
It's a pretty unnatural progression, actually, for a system to give out points like that. But we'll have to see how it works out in practice.
Yeah, it's like real Formula One gives out some kind of I don't know if it's logarithmic or exponential decline kind of point wise.
Yeah, usually you have the differences between each position get smaller and smaller as you go down the ranks, and that's not the case here. But yeah, we'll have to see.
Okay. Yeah, there's a couple of big changes. Like between third and fourth, there's only 2-point difference, but then, there's a 5-point difference from most of those top 6 places. And then it drops only by a single point towards the very end. So we'll see if that actually balances out. It seems like first place even second place has a huge advantage over almost anything else. In terms, sixth place almost seems like I hate to say it's not worth it, but you're so far behind even fifth place that it could be difficult to catch up unless there's constant changing of places. But if we see the same players constantly in the top 5, the rest of the field is just going to be completely left in the dust. Is that how it happens in Formula One with like the 5 or 6 drivers really pulling ahead of everybody else?
Mostly, the difference
Okay.
is that in Formula One, you're also like massively dependent on the car you get. So, like normally people say like in Formula One, it's 80% car and 20% driver. And we don't have that difference here. So at least that's not as bad. But I could still see, like, especially for the Drivers' Championship, that we'll get a massive hole almost in the middle of the driver standings, where sort of the top maybe 7, 8 players like go ahead with a massive lead. And eventually you'll have like a couple of people in the middle of the table that are sort of getting points occasionally, maybe up there a bit. And then you'll have a lot of people who are just on like single digit points after like 5 races. And well,
Yeah, I could definitely see a couple of drivers maybe even finishing the season with no points at all, because they're always outside the top 10, even though they might put up some very good scores or whatnot. That they're always 11th, 12th, 13th. They're not going to get a single point. But I guess the way to try to balance that is with that sprint race, that they have a longer time to complete the challenge, which means they have a better chance, at least theoretically speaking, of getting in some points that way. So maybe that will help balance out some points in the end.
yeah,
But again, this is a new format, so we're going to have to see if
Mm.
that actually does in fact work out that way.
I was going to say, I don't really see anyone finishing without points, especially because of the sprint race. You'll pick up some points sometime, but I still think it'll depend a lot, because we don't know that yet, as far as I'm aware, on how big the differences are in the time you get allocated for the sprint race. Like because I don't think you explained that as well. It'll always be 20th and 19th out of the feature race get the most time. Then there's a drop off for 17th and 18th, again for 15th and 16th, and so on. And it'll depend a lot on how big those drop offs are and what the sort of initial time is to begin with. So I would imagine first and second place getting somewhere between like 1 or 2 minutes, and then having either like 10 or 20-second drop offs, or like increases in time if you go the other way. But we'll have to see, because I think if it's like 3 minutes for first and second place, then I almost think it won't even matter, because most of the people who can finish like first or second in the feature race are more than fine with 3 minutes time.
Yeah. The organizers are still putting the finishing touches on some things, including that sprint race time limit. I think they're trying to work out exactly what might be good. So we'll let you know as soon as we know what they're doing. But the feature race is the one to really focus on, because as Calamity said, it's the only race for that team test event coming up tomorrow or today, depending on when the seeds are actually released, but to place everybody for week 1. So they still have a bit of time to work all that out. So they'll hopefully be finishing that up in the next few days. But so now let's take a look at the teams. We know about how this league is going to be working. So our first team is Lancaster PR Performance Racing, with Giovanni, our Symphalix, in the top driver's seat, with Settle, his co-driver. Is that how you say it? I don't know Formula One jargon at all.
I mean, yeah. Normally, they're just both drivers. There's not really any such difference.
Okay, and there is a difference, though. Wakalach is the reserve driver. So every team has 3 drivers, but only 2 will compete in Formula G. The reserve driver will be competing in the Formula G2, as well as a few other players who didn't qualify for Formula G1, I guess you could call it.
I think it's just Formula G and Formula 2.
Oh, okay. I thought it was G2.
No.
No. Formula G2.
Is it?
Yes.
Did he change it to that?
I think he did change it. As we said, this is all kind of a work in progress. So
Still says Formula 2 on the introduction and rules.
on the standings and rankings
Oh, yeah.
pages, it has it as G2. So
Okay.
yeah. Either way, you know what we're talking about. So yeah, so there will be a bunch of those. Actually, we'll operate a little bit differently. We won't cover it too much. Here on the Esports channel, we'll cover just Formula G, the main division, and there might be a few update videos in shorter length about how the G2 championship is going on. Mostly the G2 is there to offer drivers a chance to practice, but also to rank them in terms of, in case of Formula G drivers unable to finish the season or withdraws, that pool of drivers will be used to fill those slots. So that's mainly what it's there for.
Yeah, it's still going to be mainly, I would assume, first of all, the reserve driver filling the slot of the actual driver, and then just the person filling the sort of the spot of the reserve driver. But I think like reserve drivers are taking part in Formula 2 as well, or some stuff like that. We'll have to see how it all works out.
Yeah. The reserve drivers are allowed to participate in Formula G2 if they wish. I don't think it's required of them, but I think most of them will be playing anyway. So that's Lancaster PR. Quick pause, and we want to thank Slovak Goalie for all these great logos and liveries for the cars that he put together. So all these logos and those beautiful cars are from him. So definitely drop by and give him a like in the Reddit for those. Anyway, next team is Chariot Motor Group, which is my team. I'm the reserve driver for this one with Barry Fishy Bear 7 and Manislaw Geo as the main drivers for this. Yeah. Do you want to say anything about these teams, or should we just run through them, Calamity?
I mean, you can just run through them and they'll say something about a couple of teams afterwards. I think that works better.
Okay, we'll do that then. So then next on to Bamberg Sport. Reddick is and Jack E562, the main drivers, with Gamer RG16GG as the reserve driver. Then we get to FGT Racing with U Calamity as a driver, with M Wick Home and No Snowfall as their reserve driver. Nordhagen GP with Max FI, who is promoted from Division 4. It's been a few weeks since I looked at that.
Already everything's forgotten.
Yeah, so Division 3 in the Reddit League next season with Clutch Airball and Diff Z as their reserve driver. Let me go to Scanstrom MRT. I don't know how to pronounce it umlaut correctly.
Scanstrom,
okay. With Tal Impala, Orpheus 57, and Patriots FTW, a good French duo of drivers here for them. And then with Oberhausen Sport, Simi Close 24/7 and Sir Lemons as their reserve driver. And we have Casa Rivazza MS, M the Basement, and Mr. Blue GG with Yomi 47 as their reserve driver. The second team to have a national duo, two Dutch players there. And Octane Engineering with Deep Thought and Steal This Nick and Personal Battle as their reserve driver. And rounding out the field, Opava Zavondeni.
It'll work.
Something like that.
Yeah, I can't speak
Czech team.
I can't speak Czech. Can't help you with that
either.
one.
So Slovak goalie Shumi Obloso and Owen Pro Golfer as their reserve driver to finish things out. So anything in particular that stand out to you, Calamity, or is of interest for our viewers?
If you could maybe show like the standings where you could just see all of the drivers.
That's probably a good way to do it. There we
Yeah,
go. So now we can see them
there you
all
go.
at once. They are grouped by their team in the same order that we just presented them, without the reserve drivers, of course. So
yeah, the two teams that stand out immediately are probably from everyone that's familiar with the Red League videos, Simian Closed and M the Basement and Mr. Blue in Oberhausen and Casarivazza, respectively. They're probably the favorites for the Constructors' Championship, in my opinion. As I've said before, it'll depend a bit on the time limits for the sprint races as well. But yeah, Simi obviously just won the Reddit League. Closed has done incredibly well on the shorter time limits as well. He's usually played through a lot of the seeds too, not just the ones of his own. Mr. Blue, I don't think I have to say much about him. Now going to be Division 1 as well next season in the Reddit League. M the Basement as well. Also got promoted from his division. So those are actually... Interestingly, there's two teams with 4 players who have either like won their division. Actually, did they all? They all won their divisions. I just realized.
Yeah, closed was the top of Division 4B. So yeah, he won his group. So yeah, so very informed players for sure there.
And
Tal and Paula also coming off a very good season.
Yeah, a lot of the other teams have like one clear like number one driver in quotation marks. Like a bit of a dark horse team I see here is Octane with Deepfall and Steal the Snake, which are both also very good players. I'm not quite sure if I've seen Steal the Snake play a lot of national maps. He's done very well on world maps, but yeah, that might be interesting to see. And yeah, then of course you'll always, for the driver standings, you've got sort of different favorites because you're not as reliant on your teammate putting up points. Though again, that might be actually because of the way the points are allocated. Your teammates might not matter that much. They'll be mostly if you've got a teammate that's good enough to be in the top 5 as well up there with you, that might make a difference. But whether your teammate is sort of around 7th, 8th, or 19th, 20th, I don't think matters that much. So we'll have to see how that plays out as well, because that could be interesting. That you could maybe see like certain drivers carrying their team and putting it like much higher up than you'd expect them to be, sort of on average.
Yeah.
There's also like a lot of players that I've maybe heard of once or twice, but I don't really know much about. Like Barry Fishy Bear, came in second in the test events to get there, and I've seen him put up insane scores on some of the maps, but he's not really been part of the community much, so I don't really know much about him. A couple of other players here that I've pretty much never heard of before, like Manaslau Geo or Jack E562. So yeah, it'll be interesting as well how they'll perform.
Yeah, I can speak a little bit about my team. Berryfish Bear has done lots of challenges on the Reddit. So he's constantly playing a lot of these events. So he's very active in that, but he's not, neither of them actually are on the Discord or have taken part in any serious competitive events, you might say. Like they didn't do Reddit League and some of the bigger tournaments they haven't done, but they do play a lot of those other league kind of series that have been going on for quite a while. So yeah, so what, like as you mentioned, the test events take place on world maps, on Diverse World, in fact, and all of the races are in country-specific maps. So
we're back with the Reddit League situation.
Yeah, exactly. Where
the seeding is in world maps, and
where players showed us how good they were on a world map, but now they have to take part on a completely different scale. So we'll have to see if those players are actually as good as their world scores, or if some of these people are maybe just mostly world players. But I definitely hope that Slovak goalie has a little better of a time of things than he did in the Reddit League. A bit of rough season.
I'm pretty sure he will.
So yeah, I think he can look for him to maybe help out Opava there, boost them up in the rankings a little bit. But yeah. So that's about it. But I don't really know What else? Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the Constructors' Championship points work out because, as you said, you could have one driver who's constantly at the top two or three, and just that way their team is getting as many points as another team who have two drivers constantly around mid-table, right? So,
Like not even necessarily mid-table. Like if one of them, like if one driver is constantly winning everything and another team has like two drivers in like 6th and 7th, that's already way too like little points they're getting.
Yeah, so I guess this is definitely an inaugural season. So what the organizers are going to be kind of looking at things very carefully as we go through to see if all these point awardings are actually working as intended. But we still hope to have lots of fun and see some great scores put up by all these players nonetheless. So
fun? Never. It's a competition.
Too much stress for you, huh, Calamity? Always gotta get
gotta
those
win.
scores. Gotta win. Yeah. Maybe that's why I just didn't make it in the top 20. I'm like, but so I think the last thing we want to look at in particular is just a brief glance at the team test event that's coming up. That's be starting today or tomorrow. It is a Spain by Mapper, an average score of about 18,000 points. It's been played just over 500 times with 1,200 locations and 44 likes. And as Calamity mentioned, there is no sprint race for this one. So this feature race will allow us to, seed the drivers for week 1 in Australia, I believe. Is that right, Calamity?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
For the sprint race in week 1, so that's gonna be Melbourne, I think.
Yes, it is it is Melbourne, and Australia is the map by Radox. So we'll look at that. Yeah, so this is maybe a little bit of a preseason sort of race all the players will be actually playing in the format that they'll have to get used to in the race weeks to come. A little bit different from the test events, which awarded more points to more people. So it's a little bit of a change. So kind of a transition week, so to speak.
The main reason in the first place why this test event gives out points, because Ben, the creator of the league, originally intended it to be just a test to allocate the positions for the sprint race in week 1, but not give out any points. And then I wrote him basically, well, if you're going to do that, then I'm just going to get 0 points and get the best position for the sprint race in Melbourne if I'm not going to get any points for the test event anyway. And that's why he changed it to give out points to sort of not encourage that behavior.
Yeah, so there are driver and constructor championship points to be earned in the feature race, but not in this. There's no sprint race, so not in there. So they will be trying to put up some good scores to get off to a flying start before official race 1 weekend next week on the 9th of January. So, well, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this preview of us kind of figuring out how all this works and showing off some of who are the players and the teams in the Formula G event that's coming up. If you like it, please hit that subscribe button and you'll be able to see all the videos we make for this. So every week we're going to have a somewhat of a highlight video of how the players did and how the standings shifted. I don't think we're going to be casting any matches, so to speak, for this one, but we'll see how things go. We did have an idea of doing it Formula 1 style, where we just show everybody's video together as best we can, but we're still working that out. Subscribe and stay tuned for more updates on Formula G, and we'll see you all next time. Take care.
Bye.